Some of them they think their voice are not perfect enough. They have certain accent in certain words, pronunciation, which is common. So they would rather to pay for a professional service to narrate their books.
Liqiang, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for your invitation. So
Okay.
you want me to introduce myself, or
Well,
how do you
I'll,
want
I'll,
to go?
I'll start with the basic question is you want to introduce yourself? Go ahead. Let's do it this way.
Sure. So my name is Liqiang. I the founder of Audioflow Technology. What we do is we help authors to produce audiobooks within a few clicks. Um, Normally, the current existing solution for making audiobooks is very expensive and very risky, and it doesn't make sense financially for most of authors, meaning most of the people cannot make money back when they sell it, especially with all the untransparent policies, the whole process with the production process. What we do is we use digital voice to help authors to make their books. And we are not only developing our own models, we actually are aggregator and end-to-end solution for most of users. So when people just try to get a new audiobooks from their manuscript, all they do is they upload their manuscript, choose a few voice they like, and then choose the output format. And usually within 2 or 3 hours, they can get their audiobooks.
Okay, Liqiang,
Usually, if you don't do that,
can I just
yeah,
stop there? Because
yes,
I'm not familiar with the traditional process. You said it's more expensive. You said it's riskier. Can you just tell us how that
yes.
works so I can compare with what you're offering?
Yes, that's that's a good thing. So usually there are multiple ways you can do audiobooks, especially when you are an indie authors. For example, you have a daytime job and then you just write as a hobby and then you want to publish yourself. That is the target consumer we are working with. It usually takes like for a 300 page book, usually takes 2,000 to $4,000 USD to get it done. And that takes 3 months approximately.
Wow.
It's very expensive to be honest. And in that process, you have to talk a lot with the narrator itself. You have to work with the audio engineer. You have to sometimes work with the QA engineer. So that you want to make sure the book the final deliverable fits all the requirements of you and all the distributing platforms. And that is a long process. And there are many uncontrollable process like risk in that whole journey. For example, the audio is very high, like the sound is very high in certain peaks that it triggers certain validation things in the distribution format. Or sometimes the narrator pronounces it wrong and do it wrongly for through the whole chapters or the whole books. And then you pick it up and then you find, okay, something is not working. And then there's a lot of lots of
Back and forth?
like unforced conversation about that. That's why it takes so long. And when you distribute it, it's even not financially rewarding because all the untransparent policies from the different platforms, such as Audible, Spotify, they cut a huge amount of royalty from your revenue. So you did, as author, you did all the hard work, you spend the money upfront, and then the revenue you receive in the end is very small portion of the wholesale. And that whole thing is a nightmare for most of authors. That's why that's why like most of indie authors they choose not to publish their books because of those.
And so what you're saying is you're still going to go through these distributors, but your
Mhm.
technique will make sure that it doesn't have any conflict based on their regulations.
It does that's a they still goes through all the they still go through all the distributor and the retailer. What it does, it try to minimize the cost and the time spent to make that production. And when we when we deliver the audiobooks to the authors, we actually let them know they know this digital voice at the beginning. That's why they choose us. And as long as you mark in these days in certain platforms, as long as you mark it explicitly as digital voice, honestly, you can send it. Like you can distribute it. The only thing is when the end consumer saw that, they will see a little like tags in the system saying this is by digital voice and this is not, this is a human. And so we gave a alternative solution to the authors so they can make their story being heard.
I have a question to you. There's a lot
Mhm.
of these AI models, especially the voice models, you can almost immediately know that it's digital. I mean, from the
Yes,
ones I heard. And
yes.
do you feel like some consumers they would feel, uneasy about having something that is not coming from a human but digital? Or do you feel like people are just used to it because of Siri and because of the LLMs? Do you think we're used to it now, or is it a barrier?
I think there are three types of end consumers. The first group is they are open to the story. They are like they want to know the story. They don't care about that much of narrator itself, especially when the digital voice are not robotics. Let's assume all the digital voice are good enough, or like they don't sound like robots.
Mm.
If it sounds robot, I think most people will pass. But these days, with the new technology advance in TTS field, you can actually hear very, very good voice that is hard to distinguish whether it's really AI or human. But in terms of consumer, first one is some of them they are okay with listening to stories. The focus is on the content, not the voice. This is the first group. The second group is they are super crazy about narrator. They really like the human voice, which I totally understand because I listen to many audio books myself. I can definitely tell there is a big difference in that. They are very focused on that. The third one is somewhere in the middle. The third group is somewhere in the middle. They are okay with the voice, but they want to feel the difference. They want to know if that is something they like, and they are willing to try. So it depends on the consumer you want to target as the author, but usually the the um I see like the first group and second group, they are not like compare being compared with the numbers. The third group are much more in terms of number than that.
Interesting. So you're saying most people, they kind of care about the narrator, but it's not an obsession for them. It's not like super focused on
It's
it.
not,
We want the balance between both. Like it's good enough
yes,
here, and I get to hear a good content, which makes sense. I think I'm
yes.
in that category. I think most people would probably be in that category.
Yes, especially when listening to the books in the backlist. For example, backlist means it was published before in the written version or EPUB version. You just don't have a audiobooks version for that. They like some people have a very they carry when they listen to the book, they have very strong purpose for that. I just want to listen to this particular book, which was published 10 years ago, and there's no way you can find an audio version of that.
Mm.
And that is the one big segment of the consumer in the market. And they actually want to they want to say they want to just listen to the content. They say, okay, if it's robotic, it's pretty bad. If it's narrator, the human narrator is great, but I just want to listen to the story. I'm fine with like I'm fine with a compromise with the voice itself.
So let me ask you this. You're providing the service for people who were planning on doing audiobooks in the first place. They look for different
Mhm.
options and they see, oh, this company will help me do this instead of a couple of weeks or month. I can do it in a few hours. And plus,
Right.
uh, they have good connections with distributors, or like they know how distributors act. So it will probably make the process even faster instead of just going ahead alone. But what about the consumer side? How much thought have you put into that segment? Or are you really focused on helping the business owners or the people who are trying to create audiobooks facilitate their lives? Or are you looking at both sides all the time?
So we actually start with consumer. We like I listen to many audiobooks, and this is how I started the whole thing. However, what I found is um, most of end consumer, they don't understand or they are not aware of how much it costs for an audiobook to be produced, especially for indie authors. As I said, it's very expensive, and then some of them are willing to try our services, and some of them say no, I just want to like human narrator, which is fine. And then suddenly, like when we first started this, a few authors actually they contact me. I don't know how they find me, maybe through LinkedIn from Facebook. They said, "Can I convert my book with audiobooks?" And I just want to listen to myself. I want to do a revision, and I want to send this to my father, to my son, so they can listen to that. I think that is the like aha moment I get. Like, what if I can help them to make it more accessible? Not definitely doesn't necessarily mean they will sell it in at the beginning. At least I didn't plan that, but they can make it their story more accessible to other people's. And that is the pivot moment that we made. And we kind of try to help more. We still have the hobbyist mode that when you upload a book, you can still get, yeah, as a consumer, you can still do that. But we try to we try to target the consumer, sorry, the authors more because of that.
That makes sense. And I personally have never thought about it. Like I've never thought about the effort it takes to create an audiobook. I really never did.
It's
But
it usually takes like 12 steps or 15 steps if you consider the whole process from the first time you talk to a narrator and then you sign the contract and then at the end you receive the audio deliverable. It's a very long process. And most of authors, they can not make more than 3 or 4 steps because of those complicated thing involved.
if I'm a serial author, like I write a lot of books, and do you think there's a place in what you're building for me to customize my voice, my own voice, and then maybe, or is that in place? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, instead of
You
having a
mean like
different
you
voice,
narrate your own voice, you
train my
narrate your own.
voice. Yeah,
Yes, you can do that. And we actually provide that service. What we however, like there is a catch. Even though that service now is pretty mature, not only in Audioflow, but also in other tech companies. But most of authors they don't like to do that. They want to, it's like their baby, and they want to use the best fitting voice to fit their story. So some of them they think their voice are not perfect enough. They have certain accent in certain words, pronunciation, which is common. So they would rather to pay for a professional service to narrate their books.
that makes sense. That makes sense. And how do you find the perfect voice? Is it up to them, the clients, or do you suggest something based on the book itself, the tone?
So this is a good question. When we start the company, we actually decide to not to develop the best models in the world or the spend much research efforts. Although I'm a research engineer in different companies before, what I think is there are already many good TTS models in the market. The other they don't care about if it's best transformer with the best KV cached model that you provide. They want to have a solution for that. So instead, we actually go to many different tech providers, like Microsoft, 11 Labs, Google, like many companies we can find, and we manually pick the best studio quality voice, and then we aggregate them one by one into our system. And that's why we basically work as a like one-stop shop that people can come here and then pick the list of the top performing voice and then feed they think feed their stories. And to make it more visually like easier to pick, we actually put a lot of characteristics of of the of the voice, like for the voice. For example, certain voice is like for the voice sounds like maybe 30 age female in the west of America. So maybe you can think of that is remind me of it's a cowboy voice in certain genre of the story. So we actually have like profile for that, even though it's like is made, but that will make make the connections much closer or quickly, so that you can have a visual connection to that as well. And we provide a lot of voice like that in our system.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, if I hear a Western accent about a story, or a book happening in the middle of the US, then it will feel a lot more personal. It will feel like it's the real person from the story actually talking to me. And that makes a lot of sense. But let me ask you something. Like, you've been at this
Mhm.
for almost a year, not even
Oh no,
seven,
actually,
8 months.
the company was started. I had this idea for more than a year, a few years, but I never got a chance to do that until this year, March. So both my friend and I, we have a similar idea about audiobooks production. And then so it's my friend, we do that together. So we started this in this year, April, and then we launched the product in end of June.
Wow, that's so recent. So it's
Yes,
just
it's very recent.
like a few months. And
Yeah, we are like baby startup.
so let me ask you this. A few months after launch, what has been the biggest lesson you learned so far after a couple of months? Something you didn't expect, you didn't plan for.
I think it's about how to sell it, to be honest. Like my friend and I, we are all engineer background, tech background. We can build stuff very quickly. We can try to make it bug free. We can make the whole UI UX experience smooth. But to sell that, that's a different level of skill set that's required.
Mm.
For example, I thought like I just put it link on Facebook and then people will come to me. It doesn't work that way. And I'm sure you have the similar experience
Yeah.
before. So what we did is in the end we try to go to the certain Reddit group, subreddit, and then like we say that this is a startup like idea, and we are willing to give free trial for that. And this is actually what we did in the end. And also we put a lot of ads in Facebook group, Instagram, or uh, Google Ads. However, what I found that is not very helpful, to be honest. People these days they saw too many ads here and there. They don't pay attention to that. What they really like is the trust between human and human. And what they want to know is a real face behind the scene. It's a real person who can help them to fix their problem in the manuscript and to make it sound better. I think that is the trust that like anyone who wants to sell their product need to have first with their client, and then the rest is coming like smoothly.
Mm. Yeah, but I think in the beginning you're experimenting. It's good that you try different things because in the end you'll know where to focus your time. So there's
Yes.
no right answer because out of the conversations I've had, some people had overnight success because something worked, something they didn't expect. They were trying like a bunch of
Mhm.
things, and just something clicked. Or someone with a big following posted it again. Like I think it's all about A/B testing. Here's a language you and I understand. You keep A/B
Mhm.
testing and until something really clicks. But yeah, I mean, it's a great idea. And the fact that the people behind it really understand the technology, that gives me a confidence boost. Like it's not the name and the shiny website. It's like I think the first thing I look at in a startup is who's behind it. Do they have the credibility to build a tool like the one you're proposing? And as, technical people, I would feel very comfortable with what you're building. It makes sense to me.
I see. And for I I ask like why the audio.
I kind of lost your voice, Liqiang. I think you muted yourself.
How about now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I actually asked a few authors who work with us, why did you choose us? Why did you choose our service? And what they told me is like because I try to think from their perspective. For example, each transaction of the conversion they made actually will have a charge cost of the credits like we gave for free.
Yeah.
But I didn't do much of them to be honest, because I think what they send me is like there's a typo in their there's a like typo or there's a grammar issue in their problem in their manuscript. So even though I convert the voice for them, but I didn't charge that. And then they realized like I was not just looking for the profit, which I didn't actually. I really want to help them get the books out. That's what's my focus. And I try to help them myself edit certain parts so that it sounds more smoother. And that is what I learned. Like if you want to make it successful, first you need to build a trust between customers and the product. And the best way is like you communicate. You try to be as transparent as possible. You try to be clear what is why this is charged, why this is not, why this voice doesn't work with your book, why this is better for your genre. And I think that is the like one of my biggest mental like uh movement I learned.
Yeah.
And I think that will also push me to go forward and encourage me to like do more about that in the future.
That's amazing. I think that's the right attitude every founder should have because the people who are using your app or your website or your product, well, they're trusting something that has no historical data. So they're really trying something from scratch, and that risk deserves to be treated as such, as like with respect, because they trusted you. And so I think in time you will earn more people's trust. But yeah, it's a long process. It's a long process. And I think
It
you're
is a
gonna
very
enjoy
long
the
process.
journey. It looks like you're all into this. You've been thinking about it for a while. I'm glad you're finally executing. Liqiang, thank you so much for sharing. I think it was a very important conversation, and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Antoine. Thank you for having me.